Hey guys, the Chess Lobster here. Just going to be going over my game with Jason Markowski, a friend of mine. I went to high school with him. He's around 2000. I'm around 2000. Well, when people ask me what my rating is, I say I'm around 2000. So this is in round three of the Eagles Club Waukesha Chess Championship. I kind of prepped for Jason. I found a hole in his opening prep, or at least I thought I did. Uh, so the I think it's Jesse Cry from Chess Dojo. Just want to give him a shout out for this opening line. It's just a simple system against the French. I had played pretty much the exchange variation up until now. So in this game, I tried to go with the advance and sack a pawn. So e4, he plays e6, d4, d5, e5, c5, c3. So this pawn structure is very common in either the French, or sometimes you can get it with the bishop outside the pawn chain in the Caro-Kann, which I like to play. So once you push, the advantage is all this extra space on the king side for white, and for black it's the extra space that they're going to try to develop on the queen side. I will get better at making arrows at some point, but not now. So c5, c3, knight c6, knight f3. So as Grandmaster Jesse Cry says in this position, the advantage that black has is, even though they're on the black side of the board, after queen b6, they actually have a advantage in time because they have two pieces out and I only have one. And my bishop on c1 is stuck defending this pawn. So if white doesn't really know how to play this position, black can end up undermining this whole pawn chain and pretty much winning everything just from the three attackers here. So what I wanted to do is try to play a bit more into my play style and out of Jason's play style. Jason's he's like a porcupine. He likes to play kind of condensed situations, kind of closed positions that he knows he can just wear them down. I prefer kind of crazy chaos. I like playing the Banco Gambit. I like explosive chess. So I really like Jesse Cry's line here with bishop d3. So with bishop d3, the idea is they can't really win this pawn, even though if they take, they're up a pawn for the moment, but you get bishop b5 check, a discovered attack on the king, and they're going to win the queen after the check is dealt with. So that's what we call on d4, this pawn is tactically defended. So with bishop d3, what you do is if they take, you actually just calmly castle, and they'll take here, and you take back with the knight. And let's say they play something normal. Knight g7 is a very normal move. The computer recommended move and most common move here is bishop e3. And the idea is if they take on b2, taking this free pawn that I mentioned before your bishop was protecting, it's completely winning for white. After knight b5, your knight is just so well placed. It's threatening to go to d6, it's threatening to go to c7. You're just crushing here. So instead, they either can try this, which fails to the same tactic mentioned before, the same discovered check that wins the queen, or they can just move back. Queen d8 is actually the recommended computer move here. And then after bishop g5, even though, I mean, the eval says it's a little equal, if you look at the position, you have four pieces in the center. You're castled. You're going to play rook e1, rook c1, and this is a very easy position to play. So just to run through the moves very quickly, against the French, you play into the exchange, and after queen b6, a very natural French move, you just play bishop d3. And thanks for the sub, Marvies2. So after bishop d3, you kind of give up the pawn. But my opponent I kind of prepped through Opening Tree, great website. I knew would play bishop d7, and even after the game, sorry Jason to call you out here, you still claim that bishop d7 is the correct move, but it's not, because after d takes c5, bishop takes c5, I can castle, protecting with my king and rook this f2 point, and everything is fine for me. The cool part about giving up the d pawn, or at least moving it, is that's black's main target in the French. So now if black doesn't really know the backup plans in this situation, they're just kind of fumbling around. So black plays a5, very natural to prevent b4 to block this, but here I'm still in theory. So knight bd2 I play immediately, and I think Jason sort of realized here that I had prepared something, and my, oh, I don't know what you'll do, if you play the French was a little bit of a lie. He plays a4, I play b4, en passant capture, and knight takes. So another key in this position is my pawn on c3. It looks weak because it's isolated, but isolated pawns are bad. I mean, this pawn is not isolated because it has backup hypothetically, but this c3 pawn isn't actually weak either because it dominates this knight. So the two main squares for the knight are taken up by this pawn. So even though he has successfully developed, he's still kind of cramped because this bishop's under attack if the queen moves, and there's no real good place to put it. I mean, you can't put it on d6. If you go to e7, that's where your knight wants to go. So still, this is very uncomfortable for black. So knight g to e7, and I'm looking to pile on that queen, because if I can remove the defender, this queen here, I will win this piece and win the game. So I play queen e2 first. I like that my queen here protects f2, it protects a2, and it protects e5. So knight a5 wanting to trade. So if you ever feel like your position is worse but your pawn structure is better, which black has a better pawn structure here with my kind of spread apart pawns, trades are good for you. So black is looking to trade knights and kind of enter a safer position. So I mean, the computer move, and I understand the logic, is knight takes c5, and it wants knight takes c5, queen takes c5, rook b1, and to just give up the c3 pawn in exchange for, I don't know, magical computer destruction. But the idea for me was more to keep pieces on the board rather than trade down. So I didn't go for this. I instead went for knight b d4, taking the center, knight ec6, rook b1 to threaten this queen finally, queen c7, knight b5, and queen b8. And now he's got this terribly placed knight on a5, and he's got this kind of uncastled king, and I'm just looking for a kill here. So I immediately play knight g5. So I'm threatening here. Oh my god. I'm threatening here. What am I doing? I'm still not good at this. Okay, I'm threatening knight takes h7. I'm threatening queen f3. I'm basically just trying to use what I mentioned before with that better kingside space and trying to invade. So I also had to look at both knight takes e5 and queen takes e5. So the computer looks at this and it just fearlessly says, well, Evan, you're an idiot. I'm just going to play knight takes e5 and bishop f4 and knight a c6 and I'm fine. But if you think about if you're playing the black pieces, do you really want this position where I have a knight here, where I have a knight here, I have this pin, and your king is still not castled? Like, sure, I bet this is defensible, but it's not going to be fun. So, and I also saw if queen takes e5, which was played in the game, it's a pretty bad mistake, because after queen f3, I'm threatening queen takes f7, and I'm threatening the more serious threat, bishop f4, which will result in the fork. So here I'm feeling pretty confident. My opening prep paid off. I've got him on his heels. So he plays queen f6, I do the fork, king e7, captures, 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 and I'm up the exchange, but all of a sudden that king isn't being checkmated, his pawn structure is better, so even though I'm up the exchange, it's still not very clear. So I play rook e1, g6, rook b5, b6, bishop e3, just trying to pile up on that b6 pawn. Knight b7, attacking a2, bishop b1, defending a2. Takes, and at this point, I think capturing was a mistake because I'm threatening this pawn, and as some of you see, I'm threatening this pawn too because it is tactically defended by this pin. Or tactically not defended, I guess. So knight d6 and rook takes d5, and now I'm up a full exchange rather than just kind of a knight and a pawn for the exchange. So rook a3, rook d1, knight c4, rook e d3, knight e5, takes, and rook h3 to hit this. And now I'm looking at this position, and his rook is so well placed on a dark square with I only have a white squared bishop. This is pretty hard for me to deal with. So even though I'm up the exchange, everything he has is so solid now. He's fought very well. H5, rook c1, and bishop b5 luckily is a mistake, kind of an air hole in the game. So I play c4, and the computer can survive this. I think it had the ELO go from like 1.5 or eval 1.5 to 1. So I gave up some of my advantage, but this is the practicality of chess that I'm loving so much in high-level chess. You see Dubois talking about chess like it's poker lately. My idea was I know he has to trade, and then he can either take with the knight, take with the bishop, or retreat. So just psychologically, he's going to want to take that pawn because he feels like if he doesn't, his winning chances might go away. So if bishop takes, things get kind of crazy. After f4, knight f3 check, king f2, and bishop d5, and rook d1. So this is what I thought he was going to play, and I was like, okay, I'm down the exchange, but his knight is semi-trapped. I can at least maybe trade it off on f5, and I should be able to win this because that pawn's on a dark square, but I'll have to be very careful. This is a very tough game. So that's what I was hoping for. What I got was even better than what I was hoping for. Jason kind of furrowed his brow and then played knight takes c4, which unfortunately, as he realized a few seconds after he made the move, loses to a4. So a4, and that bishop's either got to take the pawn, move away, which both result in losing the knight, or he can go bishop a6, but then I have bishop d3. a4 is so important here because if I just play bishop d3 first, knight d6, and the knight defends the bishop, but with a4 displacing the piece, after bishop a6, bishop d3, even b5, I just take, and he can't save both his pieces. So he'll be down a full rook then. So after a4, Jason resigned. So he played very well to survive my prep, but I was happy to get a win here, and tomorrow I play for the club championship in Waukesha Chess Club Championship. So yeah, stay tuned for that. Check me out on YouTube, on Twitch, under the Chess Lobster, and thanks for watching, and comment and like and all that.